Now and forever, we bring IT to life.
Thank you, and welcome everyone to our monthly Connect with Remedy webinar series. This month we have HR Case Management 4.6, and we're doing a technical deep dive. We have Shlomi Afia, a product development architect, and Aparna Mandla, a lead product developer that will be taking us through this content. During the presentation, if you have any questions, you can ask them via the Q&A pod, and our support and engineering panelists will answer these questions. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Shlomi.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Hello, everyone. My name is Shlomi Afia. I'm the R&D architect working on the HR case management application. And today we're gonna, both myself and Aparna are gonna cover a little bit more technical details about HR case management. First we'll start with what HR case management is. We'll talk about what is new in version 4.6. We'll get into the high-level architecture and also the integration that we have with MyIT. We'll discuss some deployment options of HRCM as a standalone application and HRCM together with ITSM and MyIT. And then we'll go one level deeper and we'll start looking at the implementation of the main components in HRCM. We will talk about the permission model, the data privacy. We'll touch a little bit on the reports. We have a new report engine in 4.6. And then we'll talk about some other additional information that we have to share with you. And we'll reference you to some other links that you can get some more information about HRCM, and we'll end with the Q&A. So before we start, let's talk about what is HR case management in case some of you still not very familiar with the application. So whenever an employee has an issue or a problem or a question that he wants to refer to the HR organization, he can either use a phone, send an email, or in 4.6 even use MyIT to raise his concern with HR. Whenever a call gets in or an email is sent, we are creating an HR ticket, which is called case. And in this slide, you can see some screenshots of the case console on the bottom left, and how an HR case legal page looks like. Of course, you can HR agent can see the details of the requester who asked for that specific case to be opened. We have the case summary. And also we can see the work notes that the HR agent or everyone in the HR organization can add to that case. And each case also have a list of tasks that may have a list of tasks that the HR agent needs to go and execute in order to resolve the case. Those of you familiar with ITSM, this is very similar to how incident management works with the IT incident. And you will see that we have very similar concepts also in HRCM. The other main component in the application are the solutions. And solutions in HRCM are basically three different things. First thing is that they are like service catalogs, similar to SRDs in SRM. And when you are creating a solution, you can define a questionnaire that end users will go through and the questions that they will need to answer before they submit a request. Solutions are also knowledge articles, and they are part of the HR knowledge base. So whenever you want to share something with the HR organization or even with the employees and end users, you can create a knowledge article. And solutions also act as templates, similar to ITSM templates. So whenever you're creating a case, you can specify a solution that will be related to that case. And if that solution has predefined values to categories or assignment group, the case will be created with these predefined values. Last are the foundation data. Again, very similar to ITSM. There are also people store. There are categories. There are locations, sites, and organizations that include support group and permission groups and other structural organizations. Now let's see what is new in HRCM 4.6. So before 4.6, we had a self-service portal that was shipped with the application. It was a mid-tier-based self-service portal. And in 4.6, we decided to remove the portal and basically have an integration with MyIT. And so now end users can go to MyIT and request services from HR or search the knowledge base. Our reporting engine, we used to have Jasper as a report engine, and we replaced it with the new Smart Reporting, which is part of Remedy 9. We improved the data privacy and data permission model. The data is now more secured and more controlled by permission access. And we have new installers, which are, at the moment, they are for fresh install only. And from now on, we will support also upgrades. And our supported platforms are Windows, Linux, and MS SQL and Oracle databases. Okay, now let's go down to the architecture. So you probably already know that HR case management is an AR application. And all the main modules that we discussed before, case, solutions, foundation data are all AR forms. And it's all controlled by filters and actively using mid-tier. And so the HR organization or the HR specialists, which are like the IT agents, will use mid-tier in their day-to-day work. Inside mid-tier, we have a visualization plugin that is basically used for showing some graphical descriptions of questions and tasks, and we will see that later. HR agents will also use smart reporting in order to see existing reports or create a custom report. And end users will use their browsers and mobile devices in order to connect to the MyIT server. And in MyIT, we have a new set of providers that enables us to integrate with HRCM and for end users to see HR services and see the HR knowledge. On the AR side, of course, we have the HRCM application, and we have new plugins, new and existing plugins that we will talk about later and explain what they are used for. So the first plugin is the visualization plugin, which I mentioned, which is running inside the mid-tier. And as you can see in the screenshot, this plugin is used in order to visualize the structure of either questions that you defined in your solution questionnaire, or the tasks that you defined in the solution again, the series of tasks or the process and the workflow that agents need to go through in order to resolve the case. This is a very typical visualization plugin, similar to what you would see in SRM. And the beauty with this plugin is that all the static content is sent to the browsers from the AR server. Things like the JavaScript, the HTML pages, images are all distributed from the AR server to whatever mid-tier you have deployed. Now we have a couple of AR server filter plugins deployed on the AR server side. The first one is the designer plugin. The designer plugin helps to build that structure that later the visualization plugin will show on the meteor. And basically goes to the question forms or the task forms and build that tree and graph that you can later see in the visualization plugin. The next plugin is the ICS plugin, and this one is used to set up appointments. So whenever an HR agent wants to set up an appointment with an end user, we have an appointment module in HRCM, and it's used to generate an ICS file, which you're probably familiar with and is used by many other calendar applications like Google, Apple, and Outlook. And so when an agent set up an appointment, so the end user will get an email with an ICS file, and he can set up the meeting in his calendar. The last plugin that we will discuss in more detail is the broadcast plugin. And this one is used in order for HR agents to broadcast announcements, both to other agents and to end users using MyIT. Okay, so let's talk more about MyIT and HRCM integration. So MyIT is replacing the old self-service portal, which was a meteor-based portal. And when end users are using MyIT, they can browse and search the HR service catalog. They can submit requests directly to MyIT. They can search the knowledge base using the MyIT search engine, the HR knowledge base, of course. And they can show announcements and broadcasts coming in from HR case management. In addition to that, they can use the HR approval to approve HR cases that require approval. So managers, if they need to approve anything regarding the case, they will have an approval request in MyIT, and they can approve directly from MyIT. Also, which end user will have a user profile, the familiar user profile that we currently have in MyIT for ITSM, and they can change their avatar and their connection details. And the last thing that I want to mention is that we have a way to create a unified catalog between HR and ITSM. So basically you have one MyIT instance that is connected to both your ITSM application and the HR case management, and end users will see catalogs coming from both applications. And I have a screenshot here which showing the MyIT deployment inside BMC, and you can see on the upper part of the screen the most common IT requests, and together at the lower part you can see the most common HR requests. So we have a unified catalog, and end users can use MyIT both for IT issues and HR problems. Okay, in order to enable this integration between MyIT and HRCM, we have a new set of providers deployed in MyIT. Basically, we have three different providers. The first one is the HR service catalog provider, which is responsible for reading the catalog items that are defined in HRCM. It's also used for submitting the request. So whenever an end user requests something, a case will be created at the backend using that the definition of the solution that is defined behind it. We have a knowledge base provider, which is enabling search on the HRCM knowledge base, and users can use global search to find answers to whatever questions they have using the knowledge base policies and articles. The last provider is the HR user profile or details provider, and this is basically used in order to show in MyIT the details of the user that is connected. The email, the last name, first name, and image. This diagram shows how these providers are deployed. So on the left side, of course, you have the end user using whatever browser or mobile devices they have. In the middle, you can see MyIT with the 3 providers deployed, and they're using different forms on the AR server in order to connect with HRCM. So we have a new set of interfaces to interact with the case form, similar to what you will find in ITSM. We have an interface to create cases when users submit requests, and we have also an interface for update and read, which is used to update cases and read the details. The last one is the HRCM user details provider, which is integrated with call for people, which is the main form that we store people information in. Okay, just to give you some idea on how these providers are configured inside HRCM. We have some screenshots here to show you what you will find in the MyIT admin console. So on the providers tab, you need to make sure that whenever HRCM is deployed, you have these providers enabled. The 3 providers we just discussed. And in addition to these 3, we need to make sure also the AR group provider is enabled. The AR groups provider is used by MyIT for the broadcast feature. So in order for MyIT to get the list of users in each group that you would like to broadcast to, you need to have that plugin enabled as well. Let's talk a little bit more about how the broadcasting feature is designed. So starting from the left top corner, we have the agent who wants to announce something. So he's using his browser to connect the HRCM application to compose his announcement. That is sent to the AR server. And from the AR server, we have that broadcast plugin that will use the REST API to call MyIT. From MyIT, the announcement will be sent to any user who has a browser or a mobile device. So this is how the new plugin we have is used in order to help us with broadcasting. So again, just to summarize, the broadcast plugin is using the MyIT REST API. And by default, the HRCM application will broadcast to any user that is member of the case_viewer or case_user AR group. And this is why we need to have that AR groups provider enabled in order for MyIT to be able to get the list of users in each one of these groups. In order to be able to connect from the plugin to MyIT and use MyIT REST services, we need to tell the plugin where MyIT is deployed, what is the host name, and also the path to the REST APIs, together with some tokens in order to be able to complete the authentication to MyIT. And this is a form that we have in the shared key store, where we can define these connection properties. Of course, our installer will make sure that this form is deployed correctly and have all the connection details set up. But in case something is wrong and something is not working, you can use this to troubleshoot. Now let's talk about how you can deploy HRCM together with ITSM and MyIT. So the first deployment is the standalone deployment, where you only use HRCM, the standalone application. If you want to enable your end users and let them connect to HR as well and see HR catalog and search the HR knowledge base, you need to add MyIT to the mix. Because MyIT, again, now is the only portal for end users. And on AR should be 9.1. You can install HRCM directly on that AR server. There is no dependency between HRCM and ITSM or SRM, so none of these applications is required. And of course, you have, together with AR, you have the smart reporting deployed, so now end users can use directly smart reporting in order to do the HRCM reports or create new reports. If you want to deploy HRCM together with ITSM and see a unified catalog in MyIT, we have two options. The first option is to deploy both HRCM and ITSM on the same AR server. That will require, of course, to upgrade, if you already have ITSM, to upgrade the AR server to 9.1. That requires a version for HRCM. And also, no matter which option you choose, you need to make sure that the users, the ITSM users and the HRCM users have the same login ID. Because MyIT will use that login ID in order to connect to both systems and read the catalog. So what are the pros and cons? Why should you choose this one? First of all, of course, the cost of infrastructure is lower. You are reusing the same AR server for both applications. It will be easier to sync between ITSM user IDs, login IDs, and HRCM because they're on the same server. The cons are that you will have to upgrade your ITSM AR server to 9.1. So if you'd like to avoid that, you can deploy the both systems on different AR servers. So as you can see in this diagram, the HRCM application is deployed on one server and ITSM on another one. HR specialists are connecting to the HRCM server through their mid-tier, and IT agents will use a different mid-tier and a different AR server for the ITSM application. You need to have two different instances of smart reporting in each one of the AR servers. On the other side, MyIT, because we now have two sets of providers, each set can be configured to connect to a different AR server, and that way you will still have this unified catalog experience for end users. That way you can get better data segregation between IT information and HR information, and some organizations is important. Just to mention again that each instance will have its own smart reporting server. And again, you need to make sure that the login ID of the ITSM users and HRCM user is the advantages in this kind of deployment is that, again, the main thing is that you can segregate the data. in terms of confidentiality, retention, security, usability, and archiving. The data is different between IT and HR, and you can have different policies on each server. You can, of course, reduce the risk from mission critical applications. If you are having a problem in one AR server or one application, it will not affect the other one. The maintenance is easier. If you need to upgrade one of the servers, you can keep the other one in that up. And it will simplify your project because it will get you closer to your ROI. And the main reason is that you don't need to upgrade the ITSM server if you don't have to. Because ITSM will continue running on whatever AR version it is at the moment. The disadvantages are you will have additional hardware, and in order to sync between users, you will probably need to use DSL. And at the moment, we don't have, in 4.6, we still don't have a good way to sync between users. But in 4.7, we're going to provide a tool to help you sync between the user IDs in the ITSM user store and the HRCM. That's it. We have about the architecture. We'll now switch to Aparna, and we'll get in more details in some of the
Thanks, Shlomi. Hi all, this is Aparna Mandla, the lead developer on the HRCM application. Some of you might know me from the SRM application. I used to work on SRM and now transition to HRCM. Okay, so Shlomi gave a good overview of the HRCM application, its architecture, deployment options, and other things. So one thing with this application is we have ITSM application and we have HRCM application, and both of them have their own foundation system, because of which the people data will be stored in two different places. The approvals, there are different rules for approvals, email engine processing is different, and things like that. So today with the 4.6 product, we will have two different foundation systems and things will have to be configured in both the places. So let's talk a little bit about the people repository in the HRCM application. Only HR agents will be able to create the people profile. When we say HR agents, there are 4 different roles. We'll get more into the details of the roles much later. So any agent is a user who's actually working on the case. So only those people will be able to access the people record other than the person for whom the profile is actually created. One other key differentiator for this application from ITSM is that this application was made very secure just because of the nature of the application. We are talking about very sensitive information here about all the HR cases and everything, and customers are usually very, very, very panicky about the security aspect of the transaction data, are the cases we create, are the people entries, and such things here in this application. Because of which a lot of changes were made to the application in 4.6, along with some new features being added in AR to support the confidentiality. One such feature which was added for this application in AR 9.1 was where AR gave us the ability to encrypt the data in certain fields at rest. So if you create any record, any data in a particular field, if you look at the database, the data in the database is all clear text except for password fields. But AR provided a feature where we are able to encrypt certain fields by a property. And we can encrypt that even the DBS, even if somebody takes a look at the database, they can't understand what actually the data piece is. So there's 3 pieces of information where we are encrypting that information. 2 of them are related to the people profile. One is the personal information, like the social security, the database, date of birth, and address, and date of hire, and things like that. These are all considered to be the personal information, and these are all encrypted at rest. The other thing is, when a profile is created, along with that, an option is given to create the challenge questions for the profile. for the user for whom the profile is created, which means that if I as an end user call the help desk, the HR help desk, and say I want a case to be created, the agent has an option to validate me at that point by asking me this security question. All those security questions are also saved in the database in AR form, and they are also encrypted at rest, which means that even if some DBA goes and tries to access that information, they will not be able to understand what that question was or what the response was. Just like in SRM, we have the solutions. We have catalog items in SRM which are called SREs, and the similar concept exists here, and these are called solutions. And like Shlomi explained, there are three types of solutions. One are the catalog entries by themselves. These are the entries which can be requested by the end user from the MyIT portal. Then the second type of catalog entries are the knowledge articles, and then the third ones are the case templates, which are more like the task templates is what you can call them. So you can define multiple tasks and create the templates, and then you can add those templates to your cases later on when you're working on the cases. So these are three different categorizations for the solutions. Also, by default, the solutions are accessed by the people belonging to a certain data group. So there is a concept of data group within the application. You can put people within a company in different data groups like the Eastern region or the Western region, or you can probably break it down into states or things like that. And you can say that people belonging to these data groups have access to this solution. And on top of that, if you want to restrict the access, just like what we had in SRM, the entitlement, you can define access rules here. There you can define the access rules. You can restrict the access by these four parameters like the group, the person type, the org, or the site name. These additional rules will restrict the access of the solutions, which means that if you go to MyIT as a user with some of these restricted solutions, you will access them only if you belong to any one of these criteria. Cases are like service requests. These are the transaction data records we are talking about. An end user submits a case. An agent works on a case. So who is able to access a case? The case is accessible by the person who submitted the case, or the OBO user, or the assignee, or the group with whom the case is assigned to. There's one role we introduced in HRCM 4.6 called the case master role. So the people belonging to this role are considered to be super users, and they will be able to access all cases irrespective of who the case is assigned to or if they belong to assignment group or not. So this group and people belonging to this group that should be assigned very selectively. I mean, our expectation is maybe one or two people at the most within the company will have this role. Very sensitive, very important role, and they will have access to all the cases. Well, one other thing which is a little bit different from ITSM here is because of the nature of the product and the sensitive information we have, even when a case is assigned to a particular group, you might want to say that I don't want every person belonging to this group be able to access this case. You can restrict the access of a case by removing the group and say only a certain person will be able to access this case. So a lot of provisions here to restrict the access of the case. Access again, just like all the other applications, is controlled by field 112. And there are some functions written. There are a lot of function forms implemented throughout the application, which act more like service action forms, where you just call the service action and it returns the output. Similarly, even for field 112, we call that locking service form as a service action, and it returns the actual 112 value. It computes it and it sends it back to us. Just like in SRM, you can ask questions when you are in the MyIT portal. If the solution had a question defined, you will see that, and all the responses are saved in the responses form, and you will be able to see the responses from the cases again. So we talked a little bit about this, the user validation. So one key aspect of this application is when I, as an end user, call an HR agent, there should be a way to make sure that I'm a valid user and I do have the permission to submit a case. How do they validate me? When the profile is created, they can create, along with the profile, the challenge questions are also defined. If there are no challenge questions defined, there is an option we show and give them a way to go and create the challenge questions from the MyIT portal. So at that point, the agent still has an option to say, okay, the user is validated or proceed or not validated, but you can still proceed and create a case with the not validated information. There could be scenarios where you still want to create a case even if you are not able to fully validate the user. Just like in SRM and all the other ITSM applications, we have the task module. A case can have different types of tasks related to that. You can add ad hoc tasks to the case, or you can inherit them from the solution that was related to the case. The tasks that are related to the solution get added to the case once the case moves to the work in progress status. And who is able to access the task? Anybody who has access to the case can access the task. Plus, there might be scenarios where you want to give the access for a particular case only to certain people. You don't want to give the complete task, a complete case access, but you want to say, hey, only this particular piece or this only one task has to be assigned and needs to be worked upon a certain user, and you can assign it to only one user. That user will have access only to the task, but they will not be able to have access to the case. But a person who has access to the case will be able to access all the tasks that are related to the case. Again, case master users will have access to all the tasks. One of the big changes we implemented in this release was the permission model change. So we have tightened up the security, and we are saying at this point that only people who should be able to access this should be the valid users. The people working on the case are for whom the case is submitted for, and the group to which the case is assigned. And if you want to restrict it further, you can restrict it further by defining the access rule. So in the application, out of the box, we are shipping 4 rules. We call them the standard roles which we are shipping. So we have a viewer role. A viewer is an end user who can be a read or write license user, and his main point of entry will be the MyIT. He will be able to only submit cases, view cases, or approve cases that are assigned to him from MyIT. An end user or a case viewer has no access to the HR application any other way. That is the only place he can access the application from MyIT. Case users are the HR agents. These are the people who actually work on the case, create cases, submit cases, work on them, and work on the tasks and things like that. HR administrators the case administrators are the people who have case user permissions and then the case admin permissions. These people can do everything the case user is able to do, plus they are able to create the people profile entries and also the solution. Only the administrators and masters are able to create the people profile entries and the solution entries. HR agents are not able to do that. Masters are the super users we introduced in 4.6. They are able to do everything, whatever we talked about, and they have a global access to everything. We cannot revoke an access from a case master to anything. So in 4.6, we also license the app so that all the read licensed users can approve the cases. Case viewer, like we talked about, is an end user and who will be submitting the cases. They'll be using MyIT to submit or view cases, and he can be a read license user. There's no restriction for us to say he needs to have a write license or any such thing. All he needs is a valid account in the people profile in the HR application people form. One other thing, key differentiator of this product from SRM is that we do not allow guest users. There's no guest user functionality. Every user needs to be a registered user in the system with a valid login account here. Case users, like we talked about, are the agents. Their primary function is to work on the cases. One other aspect is that they can run reports. In 4.6, we are shipping some reports, and these people, agents, admins, and masters can run the reports. These are available only from the application, HR application, and not from MyIT because we don't expect any end user to run any report. So he can work only on the cases he's assigned to or assigned to the group he belongs to. Agents are the HR administrators. They can work on the cases, manage people entries, and manage solutions. And one other important aspect of this role is that they have the configuration option, like they can configure the application behavior in the system setting. They can go and add more menu value to certain types of items, or they can change the role definition to certain extent. Sorry, not the admins, only the masters can do it. There's more, they can define the approval rules and all such things. They can also run the reports, and again, they have access only to the case or task they are assigned to. The master can perform all the actions an admin can perform. On top of that, the current HRCM application allows you to manage or edit the roles, the standard roles, or create custom roles. Only a case master is allowed, can actually change these roles. So you can give more forms or take away some forms from a particular role, or you can create custom roles. Only a case master, people belonging to case master role will be able to change the role. So one other thing we talked about was on the people record, we have the confidential information like the date of birth and other things. There is a certain group created called the confidential data group. A person who belongs to this confidential data group will be the only person who will be able to access the confidential data. Even if you are an admin, we are not exposing that information to you by default. You need to belong to this special group, and only master can assign you that group permission. Without that, you cannot access the confidential data. So two things which the master can do are configuring or changing the rules, and also the confidential data group. And he has access to all the cases in the system. Data privacy and role level security. So when we got this application, the data was more open to people via APIs and other things, but given the sensitiveness of the nature rule, we said, that is not acceptable, and we fixed the row level access. So we put in the field ID 112 is completely tightened up, not even company or anything. It's either the group, or you can even further restrict it to a certain person, saying that only this person has access to the case. And like I mentioned, we also got the new feature in AR, which is this feature which is highlighted here, encrypt data at rest. If you set that flag to true, this option is available for character fields, and when you set this to true, AR server encrypts this information, whatever information you put, and put the encrypted information in the database. So all the people who are able to access that record will be able to see the unencrypted information. For any other user who doesn't have access to that record, they will not be able to see the unencrypted information. So one other best practice thing we suggest is to encrypt the complete database at the AR level to make it more and more secure. We already talked about the limited access to case records, how we are limiting the access by field 112 definition, updating the definition, and also the confidential data also is available only to a limited set of people, not to every user. And also the confidential data is encrypted at rest by AR. And roles and promotion functionality also, we have tightened it up so that not every user will be able to update the role. And also the one other thing we did was, if you are creating a profile, a people profile as an HR admin, you can create a profile and you can create an HR master. We said, you cannot do that. Only a master can create master records. An admin can create only admin records. And a master user can create master, admin, or any other kind of profile. report. So, in 4.502 of this application, the application was using Jasper report. So we streamlined the reporting to use smart reporting just like our ITSM application, and we are providing some 7 canned out-of-the-box reports. So you can access the reporting console via the Actions menu on the home page by clicking on the reporting console. So the standard onboarding procedures and everything follow just like what we have in ITSM. You can read up more information if needed from this link provided here. Some additional miscellaneous information and additional information about this product. So every form that is shipped as part of this product is registered in the call core form library. All the forms that are shipped are registered in this form. And there's different properties that are defined for every type of form, what type of form it is, how it is being used, what are the key identifiers and things like that. So using this form, lot of shared code is written and lot of a dynamic code is written using this form. So one key form to really look at and to remember when your debugging issues are looking into extending the application. One of the key differentiators from ITSM application is if you are familiar with the application, when you are creating an incident or a change, there is a ticket num generator form to which we push an entry and then we get the ID, the next ID. But in this application, the concept is a little bit different. For every new form, data form that is registered in the call core library, for every data form that is registered, a corresponding table gets created in the database. And there is shared code written which goes and does an insert on that table, gets the last ID that was generated in that table and uses that as the next ID. That becomes the key or the unique identifier for that record. The same thing applies to all the forms and it's all global workflow. Pretty much the same concept applies to all the modules in the app. So one other thing that this application does is every form has a core data view. This is more like the debug view, which is used, and every data field or every field that is available on the form is also added here. So that makes debugging a lot more easier, where we can directly go to the core data view, access the view, and get the information rather than trying to expose the field in the view or other things like what we do in ITSM. A big advantage here. We talked about roles management, the 4 roles we have, and how the roles can be managed by the case master account. We also have surveys, we also have approvals and incoming. Incoming email is also one module here. Just like in ITSM, any email that comes into the system can be processed and cases can be created, or if there is a case ID mentioned in the subject line, we create the journal entries and attach them to the existing case. Lot more functionality in system settings where you can go and configure, but the key items were mentioned here. One other thing that is a little bit different from our ITSM application is the FTS searches, global searches. In ITSM, we put the FTS indexing property on a lot of forms wherever we need to perform the searching. Here in this application, every searchable field from all the different forms, like, right from solutions to cases to the people's profiles to the task and whatever we are able to search, entry gets created for them in the call core relational summary. And this is the one form where we have the FTS search property enabled, and FTS searches are done only on this one form where we have that field. That is the only field which is in FTS enabled, and we search only this field. When we are trying to do some global searches for articles or anything, everything is here. All the searches go against this form. So one other thing is what we have noticed is this application builds a lot of HTML snippets and save them in the database, and those HTML snippets are shown as is in the application. That's why you are able to see a lot of view fields and a lot of HTML type content being displayed here throughout the application. So logging and workflow structure, coding standards were strictly followed with the application. There is something called the grouping code. You can pick up any piece of workflow. And if you go all the way up to GAA, the grouping code could be different for anything. If you exclude the number and go up to this part, or the 005 in some cases, depending on the scenario, you can pick all of that workflow and see all the workflow that is tied to that particular scenario. So functionally, they are grouping the workflow this way, and it makes debugging again a lot more easier. That's all I had to talk about the application.
Okay. You want to take us through the reference links?
Sure. So here are the reference links. Knowledge article numbers. The C-try-by site is referred here. You can try accessing the site here and play around with the application there. The communities link and then the docs link.
Perfect. Thank you. Steve, will you take us through the Q&A now?
Absolutely. One moment, please. Okay, the first question I have here is, I have an existing MyIT implementation. How can we add/integrate with HRCM?
So MyIT 3.0 with P1 is the first release of MyIT that supports HRCM integration, and it has a couple of scripts that you will need to run in order to enable the integration with HRCM. These scripts will create the required entries in the MyIT database, and also help you set the connection details to HRCM. So basically, the couple of scripts that you need to run that are shipped together with MyIT.
Great, thank you. The next question is, can we leverage the case templates to create the case via email?
I don't think this is possible. What we've seen is that customers are creating different email addresses, incoming email addresses, and depending on the address, they will go and create the right case. So if it's a payroll email address, they will create a case with a payroll template. And if it's a benefit, they will have a benefit template, and they will create the cases with benefit solution.
Okay, thank you. And here's another email-related question. Does HRCM leverage RBE for email integrations to create new cases and add journal entries to existing cases?
No, we are not leveraging RBE. We have our own system.
Thanks for that clarification. The next question is, does HRCM support multi-tenancy environments?
Not today. It's a single tenant. Even though the data and everything is completely restrained and we put the proper access, from the UI perspective, the company information is not exposed, so I would say no.
Okay, and just to remind people on the call, we do have, if you have a question to ask, please use the Q&A section. We'll ask the question live. The next question is there or will there be interface forms for HR case management where you could use other solutions to create cases outside of MyIT, similar to the incident interface create or change interface create forms that are included in ITSM?
Yes, so as I mentioned when I talked about the MyIT integration with HRCM, we created some interface forms both for create and update to the case module, and so we're using it when we are integrating or doing an API calls from MyIT, and customers can use it to write their own integrations. Yeah, so the answer is yes, we have these interface forms. Adding forces.
Perfect, thank you. All right. The last question I have at this moment is, what if you have multiple companies that you're doing HR case management for, and you have certain HR specialists that should only be able to see company-specific cases, whereas you have others that need to see all? How is that handled?
So within one company?
service provider kind of.
We do not support that, right? We do not support multiple tenants.
Very good. See, I'm looking for some other questions at this time. And again, this just ask for, if you do have a question, use the Q&A section, please. Here's a question here. Is HRCM Integrator installed with HRCM, including the HRCM console display results of job runs, etc.?
It's not a necessary component. You can install it, but that HRCM application doesn't need it.
Here's another question. How does confidential data group, or how is confidential data group different from other data group?
This can be assigned only to certain people. It's also, in terms of data groups, ultimately everything boils down to they being AR groups, but only few people will be given the access. That's how we control the confidential data access. It's similar to the other groups, but the way you assign the group,
Only the master, right?
Yeah.
Only a master
can assign that.
can assign other people or connect other people to that group.
So you have a better control there of saying that who can have access to the confidential data.
Okay, great. Thank you. This next question is regarding tasks. It says, ITSM task management is leveraged for HR case management when deployed with, or is ITSM task management leveraged for HR case management when deployed with ITSM? Or does HR case management have its own task module?
Yeah, HRCM has its own task module, and like Shlomi said, there is no direct integration with ITSM. The only thing that is common if you are deploying them together would be the user record, where the user entry needs to exist on both the applications to have a unified MyIT catalog. Other than that, there is no other integration with ITSM. No commonality, I would say.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I do have one more question here. It says, can we deploy HRCM in the cloud? And if so, what are the security in place?
So RLB, our SaaS offering, is offering HRCM as a cloud solution. So, and RLB has their own security policies on SaaS offering. So yes, RLB is offering HRCM for customers on the cloud.
All right. Do you have another question here? Is there a product roadmap published for HRCM?
I think we have Steve Terry on the line. He's a product manager.
I don't know if he can talk. If we can hear him.
Mr. Terry, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hi there. So typically for roadmaps, we're happy to discuss based on having an NDA. So if you want to discuss a roadmap before Okay. Another question just came in. How do we integrate the people data, AD, with HRCM to create people, to create profiles automatically?
So we have a list of staging forms inside HRCM for the people store, and you can use these staging forms in order to integrate with Active Directory and push people information. Also from any other HR systems, SAP or whatever HRMS systems you have, within customers are using staging forms to integrate with these external HR systems.
Great, thank you. Here's a question. When we integrate HRCM with MyIT, then service catalog content will be SRD or any other specific item.
I'm not sure I understand the question, but so on the ITSM side, you have SRM, and SRM has SRDs to define the service catalog. On HRCM, we have the solutions. Using the solution forms, this is how we define the HR service catalog with questions and description. And so using the providers on the MyIT side, we read both SRDs and solutions from HRCM, and we can show a unified catalog experience for end users. I hope this answers the question. I'm not sure.
Thank you for that answer. I would like to take this time to ask for any final questions. So if you do have something to ask, use the Q&A section of the webinar. Pause here for a moment. Okay, this one just came in. Can you integrate HRCM with PeopleSoft? And if so, how do you do this?
So we don't have out-of-the-box integration with PeopleSoft. Again, we have the staging forms, and similar to how you will do it with ITSM, you will have to create those integrations using the staging forms that we provide.
All right, thank you very much. And that was our last question to this point. Let's go ahead and let's make this the final call for Q&A. I'll pause for just a moment. All right, since there are no further questions, we'll go ahead and bring this webinar to a close. Thank you for your attendance and participation. The webinar recording, along with the Q&A, will be posted to the BMC community within 1 week from today. Take care and have a great rest of your week.
Now and forever, we bring IT to life.